Hello there and welcome back. In this video we are going to finally cover the last type of a component property, which is called a variance. So variants are a great way to represent different states and the colors of your component. Now, with the previous types of properties, there is a limit to how much can we actually customize our actual component. However, with a variance, we can duplicate an existing component, modify and update its look, and then select both of those components and create the new component set with a different variance. So when we talk about a variance, we need to be aware of one thing, a naming convention. So Figma supports / naming convention that you have already seen before. And we can take advantage of that naming convention to specify what kind of properties our component variants will actually have. So as you can see in our actual project that we have from the previous videos, we can see that now we have only one component, and that is our button. So now I'm going to just duplicate this actual button just by holding down Alt and Shift and clicking and dragging this actual component so that we can actually copy that. So this actual component will now represent the actual instance of our button, right? However, now I want to create the new component out of this component, right? So for that, I want to now click and hold Control Alt and B to actually deattach this component from this button. And now I'm going to press Control Shift or Control Alt and K to actually convert this into an actual component. So this component right here will be a little bit different from this one, of course. So this second component will be a little bit different from this previous one. And why is that? Well, because I want to make this second component to actually represent a disabled state, right? So I'm going to now modify the actual color of this actual component. For example, I'm going to set its color to be this dark gray, and the actual icon color will have the same color as well, so this dark gray, right? So this second button will represent a disabled button, while this first one will represent an enabled button, right? Now I want to create here two more components that will represent our button without an icon. So I'm going to just copy this same component on the left side right here. I'm going to now press Alt Control B to unlink this component from this actual frame, and now I'm going to also copy this down below one more time. I'm going to remove the icon from here, and here I'm going to specify the actual color to be this dark gray, like we can already see here in our disabled state. There we go. So now those two buttons down below will represent a disabled button, while those first two buttons will represent the actual enabled button, right? Only this first column will represent a button with a no icon, and those two will have an icon, right? So that's everything we need to know for now. The next thing, I'm going to now select both of those components or frames, and I'm going to press here create multiple components. Now, I have already talked about the actual naming convention, right? So now we're going to use that naming convention to create a different kind of properties for our component variants, right? So for example, as you can see, the first text which we add before this slash will represent the actual component set name. So each one of those components will have a name of a button, right? Now after each and every slash, we need to define the actual property that will be used within this button. So the first property which we need to create will be for this disabled or enabled state, right? In this case, I'm going to write here enabled. So this button will represent the enabled state, right? So let's write here button / disabled, because this second one will represent a disabled state, right? And here also I want to add that same thing, so enabled, and down below button / disabled. So you need to make sure that each and every variant within this component set will have the same number of those properties. So you cannot make one component set with a different kind of a variance if you, for example, specify here only one property, and here you just remove that enabled property, right? So you need to have the same number of of those properties within each and every variant. Now, any text before this first slash symbol will become the component name, right? So every slash symbol within this name will create the new level or the new property. So now that we have specified those states, so enable, disabled, now we need to specify one more property for the actual icon, right? So in this case, I'm going to specify, for example, false, because we're not going to have this icon in here. And down below, I'm going to also specify false. So whenever you type here true or false for a certain property, then Figma will automatically convert that property into a Boolean property, and we will be able to modify that property with that toggle button that you have seen in some of the previous videos. Now here I want to set here a slash, then a true, because those two variants actually contain the icon, right? So disabled slash true for the icon. Now this first text with our actual name represents the component name, then the second one represents the first property, which is enabled, and here disabled, so I'm going to name that actual property to be a state later, and the third property here will have a value false, false here, and the true, true here. So now let's just select all those components from here. And then, as you can see in this design panel, a new category here will appear saying components, and here we have an option to combine those actual components as a variance. So if I press this button, then you will see that here a new kind of a view will appear. So within this button component, now we have a couple of different variants, right? So each and every component or a button now represents a separate variant. So as you can see now, when I choose this actual button component set, you will see that now we have two new properties, right? So the first property has those two values, disabled and enabled, and the second property has values of true and false. So the same values that we have specified when we have written the name of our components. Now this first one will be named, for example, a state, so just double click and change the name, and this second one will be named, for example, a show icon, right? Okay, so now that we have created actually those variants, now as you can see here, we have also those other properties that we have seen from one of the previous videos. So I'm going to now remove this show icon property from one of the previous videos, because now we are using variants and not that visibility Boolean property. So let's just remove this old one. There we go. And now whenever we select each one of those text from those variants, we can scroll down below and we can click this option that says apply text property. So we can just select this actual text, which is the property that does already exist. There you go. Let's do the same for each and every text within this variant. So select this text property, and here as well, and here as well. Okay, so here it's already applied, right? So now if we try, for example, to add that component right here, you will see that now we have three different states. So we have enabled and we have disabled, right? So whenever we change that state, as you can see, now our button will get a different look, right? So disabled and enabled. We can also check this option show icon. As you can see, now we can see the actual icon, and now we don't. Or we can see the actual icon, which represents the enabled state. And now let's choose disabled state. Okay, so that's how it actually works. Also here, as you can see, we have this text property, which will allow us to make the change with our actual text. For example, checkout. There you go. So now, as you can see, we have created a couple of different variants of our button, right? And we can create as many different properties for this component set as we want. In this case, as you can see, each and every component here, when we double click, we'll have all those properties and values inside its name. So we define new properties by specifying the key, then equal, and then the actual value, right? And then we have a comma, and then the second property, and so on. So we can add as many properties here as we need, right? Now, what if we want, for example, to have multiple different icons for our buttons, right? So how can we achieve that? Well, now I'm going to show you. So the first thing, as you can see here, we already have three different components for each and every icon, right? So now I want to copy all those three icons down below. As you can see now, those other 3 icons represent the actual instances, but I'm going to now remove or unlink those instances. So just hold down Alt, Control and B, there we go. And here I'm going to now give them a different name. So I'm going to now write here home, or first icon, then a slash, home, and then disabled. Here I'm going to write icon, home, enabled. Here I'm going to write icon slash checkmark, disabled. Here I'm going to write icon, checkmark, enabled. Here I'm going to write icon settings, enabled. And down below I'm going to write icon settings, disabled. Perfect. Now the next thing, we need to convert those other 3 icons into components. So let's just convert them into multiple components. There we go. And I also need to change their actual colors. So let's choose that color for each and every icon from here. Let's use this color picker tool. There we go. And those 3 will now represent the actual disabled state of those icons. So now if we open up this resources panel, then you will see that now our local components are actually grouped within those directories, right? So now we have icon because each and every component here contains that same name, which is the icon, right? So that's our component. And then when we open up that folder, we are going to see here 3 different icons. So for each and every icon, we will have 2 different states, disabled and enabled, right? So that's how it works, and here as well, so home, enabled and disabled, right? Now, those icons do not represent the actual variants. Those are just multiple components that are located within the same folder, right? And now we are going to use those actual components within our variants. So in this case here, as you can see, I'm going to now click this little button that says apply instance swap property, and then I'm going to choose this icon property because we already have that property within our component set. However, if you don't see this icon or this property, then you should create here a new property that will represent the actual instance swap property, right? In this case, I'm going to just choose this icon, and here that icon is already chosen, right? There we go. So the next thing now, as you can see, when I select this instance of our actual component set button, then I'm going to see here an icon option or a property, right? So from here I can choose the actual icon that I want to apply to this button. So for example, let's just try to modify some of those variance properties. For example, let's just now set our actual button to be in this enabled state. There we go. So everything here works fine. And from here, of course, we can change the actual icon as we want. For example, we want now to have this settings icon. There we go. And when we, of course, disable this button now, then this is what kind of a state we are going to get, right? So now everything here works perfectly fine, and we can decide which kind of icon we want to display here in our actual component variant. And also, of course, we can decide whether we should want to show this icon or not. We can decide whether to show this disable or enable state. Okay, so here we have one issues. Let me just check that out to see what this is all about. Okay, so as you can see, while I was practicing this actual component set, I have created the new variant for those icons, right? And that's why here I'm seeing that button, restore component, right? So now I'm going to just choose here detach instance to remove that, and here as well. There you go. I'm going to remove those 2 icons as well, and now I'm going to add those new icons that I have just created, right? So check mark this enabled state, and is disabled as well. Now let's choose each one of those icons. Let's click this button icon, so icon property. Perfect. And I'm going to now select this second one, and in this case I'm going to choose here or actually create the new property. So I'm going to choose here this apply instance swap property, and I'm going to create here the new property. So I'm going to name this icon number 2, and the value will be disabled, right? So the main reason why here I'm using this icon 2 and not icon 1 is because if I now try to use this icon 1, then I am going to be able to use this same enabled icon, right? So that's why we need to have two different instances here with each and every a variant of this icon, right? And now when I try to here modify those properties, now everything should work just fine as before. So there we go, show icon and not show icon, disabled. And we can of course check here and change the actual icon. So icon 2 can be maybe this one or some other that we actually want. For example, settings. There we go. And we can of course copy that multiple times, and here we can change some other different things. For example, let's choose enabled state. There we go. We can of course create as many icons as we need. We can specify here a different icon. So let's just specify here maybe disabled. Then icon can be maybe, let's say, home. There we go. So show icon, don't show icon, disable, enabled. As you can see, whenever you switch from this enabled to disabled and you see some different icon, then don't worry, you can just change that from this actual icon property. So from here, just choose this one, there we go, and everything here will work just fine as before. Now, the important thing here to note is that you need to make sure that you are naming all your components or variants properly, right? So each and every component here within your component set needs to have the same number of properties, right? So here, as you can see, we have two different properties here. So each property is separated by the comma. As you can see, we have two of them for now, but of course you can create multiple different properties, or you can just do that from this component set just by pressing this plus button, right? So with that, you can also create a new property variant, and you don't have to do it manually from here as well. So it's up to you. Anyhow, you could also, for example, create some variants for the dark or a light theme as well. And in that case, you would have to create here a new property or a variant. And that variant will have, for example, the name of a theme. And then the actual values will be dark or a light. Or if you want to have that toggle button as your actual property, like this one, then you can create here, for example, the property name of a light, and then the actual values can be true or false. So this was just one simple and basic example, and once we start working on our actual mobile application design, then you will see in practice how those actual component variants will be created as well. But if you have any question about this specific topic, then feel free to comment down below and I will answer to all your questions. Now, I know that this topic can be quite confusing because there are a couple of different information that you need to process, but still everything is doable when you practice. So be sure to comment down below if you have any questions, and for this video that will be all.